His story revolves around Choi, a handsome genius architect, and his mischievous childhood friend, Ryu. After being abroad for years, Ryu finally returns to her home country, where her other childhood friend, Jung, picks her up from the airport. They decide to stop by a nearby restaurant, where, by chance, they run into Jin, a handsome man who also happens to be Ryu's brother. Startled, Ryu quickly hides, not wanting her brother to know she's back since she hadn't informed her family about her return. On her way home, Ryu passes by a sauna, which triggers a bittersweet memory of her mother forcing her to share a bath with Choi when they were kids. To her surprise, Choi suddenly appears there, just as shocked to see her. It turns out that the sauna has been converted into Choi's office. As she attempts to leave, she spots her parents and hides under a box, begging Choi to pretend she's not there. Choi's mother shows up, surprised to see her son, and questions why he hadn't informed her about his return. Once they all leave, Choi sighs with relief but remains puzzled by Ryu's odd behavior and why she's hiding from her family. Ryu finally crawls out from under the box and starts snooping around Choi's office, despite his request for her to go. While fooling around, she almost hurts herself, but Choi rushes in to protect her, getting injured in the process. Ryu notices minor bruises and an old scar on his back, a painful reminder of when Choi saved her from bullies during their childhood. On her way home, Choi decides to accompany her, claiming it's just because he lives next door. But Ryu, terrified of the scolding awaiting her from her mother, puts on puffy clothes to soften the blow and even asks Choi to hit her as practice. Deeply anxious about facing her mother, Ryu begs Choi to spend the night with her. When he asks why she's so scared, Ryu admits she cancelled the arranged marriage her mother had set up. Little do they know, her entire family has overheard the conversation, and her father collapses in shock. Her mother, enraged, confronts Ryu. Despite Ryu trying to explain that marriage isn't for her and she finds it pointless, her mother becomes even angrier when she learns that Ryu's fiancé was the one to call off the wedding after finding out Ryu had cheated on him. As her mother begins to lash out, Ryu grabs Choi's hand, and the two flee the scene together. It seems like Ryu has a complicated relationship with her mother and is struggling with unresolved emotions. Her fear of her mother's anger and her need to escape reflects deep-rooted trauma. However, Choi knows that Ryu isn't the type of person to cheat on her fiancé, and he gently urges her to tell her mother the truth. However, Ryu, scared of how her mother might react, decides to avoid the confrontation for as long as possible. When Choi receives a call from Jin, inviting Ryu back home, Choi takes it upon himself to bring her there. He escorts her to the house, and once inside, he encourages her to face her mother by pushing her into the room and locking the door from the outside to ensure they have a chance to talk. Inside, Ryu's mother, Nami, is understandably upset, her emotions running high as she confronts her daughter. This intense scene contrasts with the flashback of their high school years, where Ryu was hardworking, pushing herself and even Choi to work part-time jobs. The flashback provides insight into Ryu's current state. She has been carrying the burden of responsibility for too long, and now she's fed up with her life of constant work and obligation. Ending both her job and her engagement is her way of reclaiming control and finding freedom, expressing a desire to live life for herself rather than for others. The next morning, Ryu's mother starts ignoring her, upset that her daughter is now unemployed and has no plans for the future. When the doorbell rings, her brother Jin answers it and finds Choi and Ryu's friend Jung at the door. Jung, worried about Ryu, checks to make sure she's okay, fearing that her mother might have been harsh with her. Meanwhile, Choi seems unconcerned and is more worried about Ryu's mother instead. Curious and confused, Jung asks Ryu why she suddenly quit her job and broke off her engagement. Ryu had always been so competitive and ambitious, so this sudden decision to embrace a lazy lifestyle didn't make sense to her. Ryu casually responds that she just got bored and wanted to experience a laid-back life. With that, Jung, running late for work, quickly leaves. Still upset with Choi for leaving her to deal with her mother the previous night, Ryu impulsively starts to choke him in frustration. Fortunately for Choi, Ryu's mother intervenes and stops her. Later, Choi takes Ryu with him to his office, where his colleagues Yu and Yoon are immediately intrigued by her, especially knowing she's Choi's childhood friend. Yoon, who has feelings for Choi, asks Ryu to share some of their childhood memories. We flash back to the time when they first met. Since Choi was born in Europe and didn't speak Korean, he struggled to make friends, and Ryu took it upon herself to care for him, almost like her baby, introducing him to the neighborhood kids. However, according to Choi, this is far from the truth. He claims Ryu was the first crazy person he ever met. She was always aggressive, teasing him endlessly, and even stole money from him. Ryu, unfazed, insists she only did those things to help him out in her own way. Seeing Choi and Ryu bicker like children, Yoon begins to suspect they might have deep feelings for each other, feelings that could eventually blossom into love. Meanwhile, Choi, tired of Ryu spreading what he sees as false rumors about their childhood, asks her to stop. That night, as Ryu cooks for herself, since her mother has essentially abandoned her due to her lack of ambition, Choi shows up, worried. He senses that Ryu is hiding the real reason behind quitting her job and breaking off her engagement. He gently urges her to talk to her mother about it, but his suggestion only makes Ryu angry. The next day, on her way somewhere, Ryu begins to reflect on her past. We learn that she didn't quit her job voluntarily. She was actually fired for being too competitive and independent, traits that her company couldn't handle. After losing her job, she also lost contact with her fiancé, which led to her life spiraling out of control. Later, Choi holds a party to celebrate the opening of his new office. Ryu's mother, Nami, and some of her old friends attend. During the feast, Nami's friends start belittling her by bringing up Ryu's broken engagement. However, Choi's mother steps in and defends Nami, shutting them down. Choi becomes upset when his father doesn't attend the party due to work, but then he spots Ryu outside. Surprised that she showed up, he brings her inside. Ryu asks him to find her mother, so he goes off to do so. Just then, Nami arrives and is shocked to see Ryu at the party. Afraid that her friends might question her about Ryu's engagement, Nami tries to send her daughter away. Before Nami can act, her friends approach, forcing her to introduce Ryu. In an effort to save face, Nami lies, telling them that Ryu hasn't left her job but has received a better offer from a prestigious company. Ryu, hurt by her mother's lie, returns home. But even there, Nami doesn't let up. She orders Ryu to return to the United States, because she doesn't want to feel ashamed of her in front of her friends anymore. Ryu feels deeply hurt that her mother Nami values her social status and ego more than her own daughter's well-being. All Ryu wants is a break after working tirelessly her whole life. Frustrated, she steps outside to clear her mind. Choi, noticing her distress, goes after her and finds her sitting alone in a park. When Ryu sees him, she tries to hide her pain, forcing a bright smile as if nothing happened between her and Nami. As it begins to rain, Choi brings an umbrella, and the moment takes Ryu back to their childhood when she used to tease him. She bursts into laughter at the memory, but Choi, sensing her inner turmoil, puts the umbrella aside and gently tells her to stop pretending and be honest about her feelings. His words strike a chord, and Ryu finally breaks down, letting her tears flow freely. At the same time, Nami is at home, crying for her daughter. Despite her actions, deep down, Nami harbors nothing but love and good intentions for Ryu. Choi, seeing Ryu's vulnerability, reassures her that things will be alright, urging her to have faith in herself. They both notice a shooting star and make silent wishes. When Ryu asks about his wish, Choi confides in her that he's struggling with his new company, as one of their major clients has delayed the payment for design fees. Moved by his troubles, Ryu decides to help Choi retrieve the overdue payment. The next morning, Choi receives a call from Nami, asking him to redesign Ryu's room in hopes of cheering her up. She can't bear to see Ryu so unhappy. Eager to help, Choi immediately begins working on the project. When Ryu returns home after spending the night at a friend's place, she's shocked to find her room beautifully redecorated. Overwhelmed, she rushes to Nami, who reveals that she had asked Choi to redo the room. Nami also prepared Ryu's favorite meals, further softening the tension between them. That night, as Ryu lies in bed, she notices the glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, a nostalgic reminder of her teenage years with Choi. Feeling sentimental, she calls him to express her surprise and gratitude for restoring her room to its former glory. As they talk, Ryu opens her window and sees Choi standing outside, across from her house. Ryu is stunned and asks why he's there, since she thought he was living elsewhere. Choi surprises her even more by revealing that he has moved back to his mother's house, which leaves Ryu in shock. Now that it's clear that he likes her, but will he find the courage to express his love for her? Stay tuned to find out in our next recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much for watching.